Probably start the recording now, and it's starting. Well, thank you everybody for coming again, and apologize for the delay. We had some technical difficulties getting into this session. So we're gonna just jump straight ahead, and for those who don't know me, my name is Jesus Federico. I'm a software engineer, and I have been working with the BBB project for quite a while, more than 20 years of experience, 10 years plus on BBB, mainly working on integrations and value-added applications for Blindside Networks. My contact information is there. Welcome to contact me at any time. And with me, Mariam, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to the presentation. I'm also a software engineer. I've been with Blindside Networks in total for about 3 years now, and I'm mainly working on developing this LTI application. And those are my social media links, so feel free to contact me as well.
All right then. So we're gonna go quickly through this slide, and it's the only one I'm gonna use for presenting Blindside Networks, I promise. So for those who don't know, Blindside Networks is the company that started the BBB project, and since then we have been one of the leading teams on its development and maintenance. Blindside Networks offers hosting services and also develop various products and services that facilitate the usage of BBlueButton. Well, BBlueButton, this is this great system we are using right now, the open source project, but it's also its own legal entity through the BBlueButton Foundation. And as we become members of this community and we get involved with the BBlueButton, we start seeing that there is a whole ecosystem of applications and components that are either necessary to work with BBlueButton or recommended to enhance the experience and take full advantage of all the capabilities that BBlueButton has to offer. In this presentation, we're going to talk we're going to be focused on the BBB LTI component in particular. So we have a packed agenda, as I say. I'm just going to rush through it. So essentially, we're going to go through the history and give you some history and the context, and a high-level architecture, and essentially the state of the project as it is right now. Let's start with the basics. How do we use BBlueButton? So by design, BBlueButton does not offer a front end for authenticating users, authorizing access to the sessions, managing the sessions or the recordings themselves. For that, we need to have access to what we call a third-party application. That third-party application can be Greenlight or another similar tool designed to manage this task effectively. In most cases, the learning management system of LMS is the one that serves this purpose. Some LMS platforms have native applications, particularly for open source projects like Moodle and Sakai. We are also either the developers, the maintainers, or contributors to those projects. For other LMS platforms such as Schoology or Jensebar, these plugins are developed by their respective companies. But in some cases, that native integration might not exist at all or might be inefficient for the specific use case that the institution or organization needs to cover. In such cases, the alternative is using LTI. But what is LTI? So LTI stands for Learning Tool Interoperability, the standard developed by IMS Global Learning Consortium that enables the integration between learning management systems and third-party educational tools. So theoretically, if we write a tool that is LTI compliant, we can integrate our tool into all platforms with none or only minor changes, theoretically. But we get into that. So the LTI project has evolved significantly since this inception. Released in May 2010, initially called Basic LTI, was the first version of the standard. It provided a simple way to integrate external tools into the LMS through a standardized launch mechanism, allowing tools to be embedded into within the course. In March 2011, LTI 1.1 was released, introducing some outcome services that allow tools to send grades back to the LMS. And then on June 2012, LTI 1.1 was introduced with minor changes, minor improvements. And then, although not widely adopted, LTI 1.2 laid the groundwork for more advanced features by addressing some of the limitations and providing enhancement to the existing services. And yet, it was never released and never adopted really. So we don't talk much about that one. But as I mentioned, it was kind of the base for the next one that was LTI 1.3. And that one released in 2018 represented a significant change forward by incorporating modern security protocols such as OAuth 2.0, OpenID Connect, JSON Web Tokens (JWT), and that was LTI 1.3 was later enhanced with a suite of extensions and renamed as LTI Advantage. It's kind of the same thing, just with a little bit of extra capabilities. Those extra capabilities essentially are the name and roles provisioning services, the assignment gradient services, just a different way of doing it, the way LTI 1.1 was doing it, and deep linking. That's one of the biggest as well. I didn't click. You should have been looking at that one. So we have over the years. We have had several applications written and by the BigBlueButton team. So right now we're focused on the last one, and let's dive a little bit on at a high level overview of the architecture of this LTI suite. A traditional implementation of the LTI tool provider is, in a nutshell, a web application that is able to process LTI requests as an authentication mechanism, authorize the access to functionality according to the LTI parameters received, normally based on the roles, and offer the actual functionality. There is another approach that has been used for a while by those who need to provide multiple services, such as our case for the tool consumers, or even different functionality to different consumers. This is done by decoupling the LTI capabilities, such as the authentication, the registration, grade passing, etc., from the actual functionality that the tool will have to offer. The application holding the LTI capabilities becomes an LTI broker, and the application which has the actual functionality becomes just the tool connected to the tool consumer to the tool broker. So in the current state of the project, the version that we have in production right now is the broker 1.1.8 and the rooms application 1.1.8 as well. Those are available through our GitHub repository and also through Docker images in Docker Hub. So, but let's see what this application looks like in terms of functionality. This is the functionality for, am I able to share? Yes. In bright space. So what we have here is bright space, just a regular, and we're going to do a manual registration. And you just give a name, you use a URL. We give normal a key and a secret. And we enable everything in this case. We don't need to enable everything, essentially name and email, but it's just enable everything for this, the purpose of this demo. And that's it, it's done. Now we can go to the content, add the external learning tool, and it's ready to be used. So it's just a link. Users click on that link and launch into the room application, which will let us to use. We can have some settings, make sure that all the settings are as we need. Recording, the meeting is going to be recorded. Yes. Update, and the users can launch into BigBlueButton. That's simple. That's all the steps that they have to do, and it's what we pretty much have in every other integration. So we can have recording. I'm going to do the whole thing. Just finish. Information comes here. Everything is updated. And if we refresh the page, as we're seeing in this demo, the recordings are there. So that's LTI. That's LTI 1.1. The problem is that LTI 1.1, and it's pretty much like good enough for what the regular user will need. It's just a launch into the application. The functionality is provided by the tool anyways. But the problem is that many of those, since the standard has been deprecated, many of you might have come to these messages from the different providers, such as Brightspace, Moodle, etc., telling us and recommending people to upgrade to the latest version. And that has for some of the two providers to work on that, and that include us. So here we are with the new version of the broker, essentially. So what we have now and what we are about to show is the release 2.0 beta that we can find right now in as well in our GitHub repository, and it can be downloaded for deployments through Docker Hub. That plays well with the Rooms application 1.1.8 that I mentioned. However, there are some improvements that we're going to have in the release 1.2. Right now it's on master, but we're just about to release this one, just cleaning up the last things to become, so this becomes a beta, the first beta for that. It could be used with 1.1.8 anyways. So let's dive into what this is. So what we have here is one of the capabilities that we have, as I mentioned, is the registration. The registration has changed a little bit, and actually Canvas has a very particular implementation of this 1.3 and dynamic registration. It's essentially the same thing. You only need a link. Automatic registration, what we see here is that Canvas has placement, which means the tool can be allocated in different parts of the LMS. So what we need here is to take essentially the key and enable it as an app. App configuration, we add a new app using the client ID because you already have those credentials registered. Submit, we install, and it's ready to go. That is ready to be used. As you can see here, if we refresh the page, is B3 room appears there for the administrator. This is the panel for the administrator. In this case, it's pretty much for testing, but the bottom line here is that we can offer some capabilities to administrators. For the course, it's the same thing. It's possible now to have in Canvas some of the common room for the course, which some institutions might want to have instead of having it through activities. And we, of course, have the same through activities or part of the content. The new one, B3 room, we have 1.1 as well. And that's it. It's ready to go. Same thing. Just a link. We launch. LTI negotiation, we are into the rooms. We have the room functionality. We launch into BigBlueButton. We can have a recording. Gonna accelerate this a little bit. And we come back. We end the meeting. We come back to the LMS, and now we can have, with our refresh, the recordings showing up there. That's simple. Dynamic registration is a bigger step because it simplifies. We don't have to interchange credentials and all those things. We essentially give a link to our potential users, customers, or system administrators, and that is the one they use to register the tool, and they don't do anything else. Everything should be configured through that link. Now, another functionality, the 1.3 includes, can be seen here. So unfortunately, deep linking works differently in Canvas. So the best showcase we have is on Moodle. It works, but it's just different. So the best use case for that is the same. We have the dynamic registration. We use the link. The tool is register. And we need to activate the tool in Moodle. And then we go to the course. It's actually, the steps are much simpler. And we go to enable the tool for the course. And now we can use it as part of the content. Disadvantage, we don't have placement, but we have a better deep linking here. So because it's deep linking enabled, we have now this menu where we can select the tool that we're going to be using. I selected here my room. We can see the name by default, my room, and that can be changed. We save, show, and it's the same room we have been seeing for the other cases. Launch into BigBlueButton, create a recording, etc., etc., etc. Can I change this? Yes, I can change. I could go to settings. The recording is there. I could go to settings, but in this case, I'm going to add a new one. It's the same link, it's the same tool. It's just providing different services. So in this case, I'm going to choose the default. It's my default. This is not enabled for everybody. It's just for developers. In this case, this server is in the developer mode enabled. So it's just to show that we can have multiple applications in there. But same as like that one, I'm adding another one here, which is lectures. Lecture is not for Moodle. This was a use case that we wanted to cover for edX in particular. And this functionality plays well with edX, Open edX, but it can also be shared with other LMSs. Actually, the UI is tweaked and to play with better with edX, Open edX. Let me stop this and just move on to the last one. Yeah, we call these enhanced experiences, like lectures, which is what I was saying. This is how it looks in edX. It's adapted to the layout they have and the functionality they have. And but we can have multiple other applications, such as this one that we have here. This is LS for Moodle, developed by MConf, that uses the same broker as well. So those experiences can be tailored per institution or user or deployment, I mean, and that's pretty much. And with that, I'm going to give the floor to Mariam, who will give us an overview of the capabilities we have in the newest version of Rooms.
All right, thank you, Jesus. So yeah, with the new version of Rooms, we have a number of new functionalities and improvements to the Rooms application. One of those new functionalities is called shared rooms. And the general idea behind shared rooms is essentially to allow different courses to be able to launch into the same room instance. So I'll show a quick video demonstrating that. So as you can see here, we have a learning management system. This one is Moodle. And we have a university called BigBlueButton World. And we have two users. We have teacher A and we have teacher B. And each of them teaches a course. Teacher A teaches biology, teacher B teaches chemistry, And if we launch into their courses, we can see that they each have a link to a room. And this room is what they use every week to give their lectures in. And we can even see in the biology room, they already have a couple of recordings. Now, if we join the BigBlueButton session from each room, you'll notice that they each join a separate BigBlueButton meeting. And that's the intended design. Each room launches into its own BigBlueButton meeting. But what if, let's say, the science department at BigBlueButton World wants to have a science fair? And in the science fair, they want all students from all courses to join the same session. Well, in that case, that's when shared rooms feature is enabled. So, so what they can do is that one of the teachers can create a new link, a new room, and they can call it science fair. And they don't have to create a new room, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we are doing that. And when you launch into that room, they will go to the edit page. And in that edit page, there's going to be an option to copy the room code. So each room has its own code. Once that's copied, they will share it with the other teachers that will be the other science teachers. So right now we're sharing it to the biology teacher. The biology teacher will take that code. It will go into its own edit page, scroll down, select use shared code. And once they do that, you'll realize that all the settings now are disabled. And that's because only the original owner of the room has the power to change the settings for the meeting. So once they select use shared room, they'll input the code that was received from the chemistry teacher. And once they update the room, you'll realize that now the two rooms are identical. And you'll realize that the recordings aren't even there anymore. So now if we join the session from either course, you'll notice that we join the same session. And in that way, we can have the same science fair for students across multiple courses. And if we go back to the room, you'll see that only the chemistry teacher has the ability to end it and manage the session. And once they end the session, let's say that the science fair is over and the biology teacher wants to go back to the normal lecture room, they can do that by going back to the edit page, deselecting use shared code, and updating the room. And as you can see, it goes back to the way it was, the recordings are back, and everything is good. So that's the shared rooms feature. The next feature that we have, and this one's actually already in production, it's not in the 1.2 version. This one is tenant settings. So this is the ability to set specific custom settings per tenant instead of on the wider scale of the entire deployment. So for example, we can have specific BigBlueButton credentials per tenant. We can have and either enable or disable shared rooms per tenant. So if, for example, one university doesn't want to use that feature, we can easily disable it. We can also set, for example, different moderator roles. So for example, maybe University A only wants teachers to be moderators, but University B wants teachers and teaching assistants to be moderators and be able to control the room. So that can be set per tenant instead of us deciding for you. And there are a few others like that as well. And the last new feature that I'm going to introduce today is parameter forwarding and overriding. So there are two components to that. One of them is just on our side in the background, we can change the parameters that are sent from the LMS. We can change their default values. So with the LTI capabilities, one of the things that you can do is send custom parameters, but if you send custom parameters, they will still show as custom parameters when they're received by the application. But what we can do is we can override them. So if the administrator sets a custom parameter in a specific way with specific syntax, we can then just replace the value of that parameter with whatever the administrator wants. So for example, let's say, context title is a parameter that is often sent by learning management systems, and it's usually just the course title. But let's say that the administrator, for whatever reason, doesn't want to use the course title and wants to use just general like department name. So we can do that using overriding the parameters. And the other thing that we added that's somewhat related to this is forwarding parameters to BigBlueButton. So in the tenant settings that I just showed earlier, what we can do is we can add certain parameters that each tenant wants to forward to BigBlueButton. And then in the rooms application, we would match those parameters to the parameters pulled from the launch parameters. So essentially, we would take the parameters that want to be forwarded to BigBlueButton and send it, and then BigBlueButton would return those parameters in the analytics. So those are some of the main features. Some of the things that we're working on in the future are expanding LMS support. So that's specifically for LTI 1.3. Each LMS kind of implements it differently. So we have right now, we have support for Moodle, we have support for Canvas, but we're hoping to extend that to other learning management systems as well. We also want to support name and role provisioning services. So this is the ability of the platform to provide us, the tool, with the student list and user information. So if we have that information, it'll allow us to better provide analytics to teachers, send more data to BigBlueButton, etc. Another thing that we're looking at is grade services. So with grade services, allows us to post grades directly to the gradebook in the learning management system. And for the Rooms app, for example, we're not really grading anything, but for example, we can have an attendance grade. So if they join the BigBlueButton meeting, we could post an attendance mark to their gradebook. And the other thing is additional applications. So as Jesus demonstrated, we have deep linking with LTI 1.3. This allows us to add multiple applications to our App Store suite, let's call it. So as you saw, we have lectures already as another application, but we can add more. For example, we can have a recordings application that will allow the teachers to view and manage recordings for their course. And of course, there are other things in the background that we're working on or we plan to work on, such as refactoring, improving our testing suite, improving performance for the applications, etc. And that takes us to the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, please let us know. We also want to know if you have any use cases and what use cases do you use or do you want to use LTI for? So please email us. We want to know what learning management systems you're using, what you're using them for, what kind of apps and features that you're looking for, etc. Thank you. Jesus, do you want to add anything?
No, you cover everything. It's pretty much I came back to for the questions. Anybody has any question? As Mariam said, I want to reinforce that our work in the last version has been to try to adapt all the differences that are among LMSs. So we have much flexibility now to adapt to those and try to cover as many use cases as we could. But we know that there might be some that we might have not seen. So that's why we want to hear from you. And if you have a particular use case, we'll be happy to help you to define the setting, the configuration to covering your particular use case, or document your use case so we consider that for in the future. So just please send us an email, send us a or try to find us in any of the places we show at the beginning. We'll be happy to help. Um, I don't know what. Well, we have one question there, but I don't know. I don't know what is JHS or SHS. If that is another LMS, well, you have to be. It has to be LTI compliant. That will be the requisite. There are about 250 LMSs out there, and we normally are focused on the five, let's say, main ones. And okay, I see. But it will have to do with what are you using in your junior high school or senior high school. If it's, as I mentioned at the beginning, there might be an integration already in your LMS, or if there is none, then LTI can be the solution, but the LMS will have to be compliant. So is right now the ones that we know for sure is Moodle, Sakai, Canvas, Writespace, Blackboard, OpenEdX, and those are the ones. I think Camilo also has LTI already. It's Learning probably has it already, and those are the ones that come to mind. All right then, Anton, thank you. I think we can wrap it up here.